All right, welcome everybody. Today's video, we are going to answer a viewer question. As those of you saw by the thumbnail, the topic of the day is going to be, oh, excuse me. Sorry, just having technical difficulties as usual. All right. So today we are going to talk about home care agency strategy, proven tactics to attract private pay clients and boost revenue. This stems from a question that was submitted by a person who's a longtime viewer, and actually been a client on and off. So before we get started, let's clean house a little bit. For those of you that are watching us on the YouTube replay or on any social media platform that you clicked on the link, let's go ahead, give us a like, share this video, leave us a comment, let us know where you're watching from, what is it you hope to learn from watching these videos. All these comments, likes, subscribes, all of these things help with the algorithm and they help the video get pushed out to other people, let other people learn from what we're doing. And also, it lets me know which videos you guys enjoy and what topics that we're going to talk about. So there is my email is somewhere in on the channel page. If not, you can send it to, you can send the video, you can send your questions in either find me on Messenger, on Facebook Messenger, find us on LinkedIn under Julio Briones or the Briones Consulting Group, send us a message there, or go ahead and you can shoot us over an email, shoot it over to office@thebrionesgroup.com. We're always, or you can just post it in the comments below. Any questions you guys have, anything you guys want to go over. All right, that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So today's video comes from a question that I got from, like I said, it's somebody that I've had interactions with, or very good client, trusted friend. Good morning, Julio. I feel like I'm navigating a strong current, but I'm keeping my head above the water, not drowning. So when I'm going to refer to the business developer, is doing great, really pushing herself, though I can see the stress weighing on her. I don't mind the pressure, but I want to be productive and ensure we are reaching the right clients. Keeps considering Medicaid clients, but I remind her to stay on track. I know private pay can be challenging, but these clients are out there. But those clients are out there. We just need to keep following strategies, leveraging our resources, and staying consistent. I'm committed to keeping this 100% private pay. She is eager to learn and has extensive marketing experience, but her budget expectations are quite high, nearly $10,000. I had to step in and realign the budget with our strategy. All right. So there's more to the message, but we're trying to keep people's privacy private. So first of all, $10,000 for a business development budget. Um, it's going to depend on a number of things, but let's go ahead and we're going to cover 8 things that you should learn from this message and how to address some of them. Okay, so number one, we got to acknowledge the current challenges. All right. So, why is this important? The fact is, you have to recognize the pressures, financial constraints, client acquisition hurdles, team stress, all of this. You have to be able to set a realistic foundation for overcoming these things. Look, the reality is, if you're not able to maintain, you know, realistic outlooks and recognize what's going on, you're absolutely going to run into some serious problems. Your staff's going to feel overwhelmed and they're not going to perform at their best. So, what do we need to do? What we need to do is we need to validate the stress. Listen, sit down and talk to them. They're human beings. Sit down and say, listen, this is the reality of what's going on. that feeling of navigating a strong current, I get it. You gotta, while you're able to keep your head above water, you also have to recognize that these challenges, and be able to address them head on. All right. So highlight your team members' dedication. Really look at what's being done right. Okay. The most magical words you're ever going to run into when you're managing a salesperson, and this applies for any position, salespeople, caregivers, recruiters, office managers, it does not matter. At the end of the day, you need to be able to recognize their efforts. The important phrase, the key to remember is, as an owner, approach your team and say, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do to support you? Hear them out, understand that they are pushing themselves, that there is visible stress sometimes. You don't want them to keep this stuff bottled up. And this type of acknowledgement, it helps your company culture. It in What it does is it creates a culture of resilience, and it really harbors and fosters a sense of teamwork. If you have a team that's unified, that means your schedulers are on board, your salespeople are on board. All of this culture goes all the way down to your caregiver. If you have this in place, you're going to have better outcomes. People feel comfortable, they feel supported, they feel the job is going to get done. Acknowledge this and move forward. All right. Number two, reinforce your commitment to private pay. If you are a private pay agency, doesn't matter if you've done Medicaid in the past, if you have a good mix, whatever it is, if you want to, shift your focus or add private pay, you got to stay aligned with the model. Okay. It's gonna really be what differentiates your home care agency from others. There's a big difference between, I've used this analogy 1,000 times. There's a big difference between me coming in and saying, I'm a plumber versus me coming in and saying, yes, I do plumbing work, but I specialize in fine fixture installation during home remodeling or bathroom remodeling projects. I've said the same thing. At the end of the day, I'm still a plumber, but how specialized am I? When I come in and I say to a referral partner, when I come in and talk to that social worker, that discharge planner, that nurse, that attorney, that accountant, whoever it is I'm dealing with, or if my clients are going to do word of mouth and really spread the word about what I'm doing, or my caregivers, there's a difference between me saying, I'll take any client with a pulse versus saying, yes, we are a home care agency, but we specialize and focus on private pay, and this is how we do it. You want to clearly document why you're committed to a private pay practice. It doesn't matter if it's because, if higher revenue, that's great, but it's to target a specific demographic. You want to be able, the difference between private pay and Medicaid is that private pay has better margins. That's just a reality. That's going to allow you to offer more specialized care, more personalized care, have broader offers than you can if your service is Medicaid. If you are even in those states, like for example, like Indiana or a couple of other states that have really great payout rates or that have these Medicaid waiver programs, you have to understand there's still only a finite number of dollars available to you through a government payer source. That's all, point blank. So when you're doing the private pay model, when you're following that, if you wanted to add in high-end concierge service, you want to add in nurse care management and apply for the higher licensing. If you want to come in and offer just standard care management through your existing license by hiring a social worker, or other trained professionals, you can do it because you have the cushion, you have that buffer that comes from a higher margin. All right. Uh, all right, fantastic. Welcome from Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Uh, I'm I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce your name. Oyewale. I hope I said that right. Yeah, but welcome and thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat and or leave them in the description box. We'll do either. I'll try to answer for those that are watching live. Any questions you have now. If you're watching the replay, don't forget, give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to leave a comment below with your comments, questions, and we will answer them as soon as possible. All right. So the other reason you want to make sure that you're reinforcing that you have this stuff on paper is because, like I said, number one, we're clarifying the vision. All right. Number two, you want to make sure you have a clearly defined target market. Look, I can't stress this enough. If you don't know who your client is, again, it's not every old person with a pulse. Okay. I can't tell you how many times we've worked with our clients, that we've worked with agencies, and this is what they're actually telling us. Oh, well, anybody can be our client. We'll take everybody. That's not the truth. If you are Medicaid and you are going into higher end neighborhoods, you're not going to find a lot of clients. I mean, you'll find some, but not a lot. It's the same thing. You're not going to go into ultra low income residents to look for private pay. It's not realistic. You want to make sure that your target market is clearly defined. You want to create a client avatar. You want to go through what if you're an existing agency. I mean, we talked about this in our video last week on identifying your ideal client. You want to make sure you do this. Create that person. Figure out who you're talking to, who you're targeting, be able to understand what services you're providing to them. I don't care if you're private pay, Medicaid, Medicare, hospice, whatever it is, you have to make sure that you're doing this the right way. If you have multiple payer sources, you need multiple personas that you've built out. Personas, client avatars, whatever it is you're calling them. All right. But you want to make sure that you have a clear profile on who your ideal private pay client is, who your ideal client is in Medicaid. Okay. Understand their needs, their preferences, how they look for home care. Also, one big part that people forget to consider in this, it'll also help you identify the right caregivers, and it'll reduce some of the stress that you have on the caregiver recruitment piece. Everybody talks about this big scary caregiver shortage. It exists, but it's not for the reasons that most people think. And if you ask me, you most likely have a retention problem or a messaging problem. All right. So the yes, yeah, if you have an existing client base, please by all means look at the past videos, look for on YouTube, or it's Home Care Owners Corners, the channel. Um, take a look at that and you'll see it. Also, if you look in the description on any of the videos or when this video gets on YouTube, we have a link. We do what's called a lunch and learn series, where it depends if we do some classes online, some classes via in person here at our offices in Plainfield, Indiana, where we cover in depth for a couple of hours all of these topics. So, by all means, check all of that out. So now, the last thing is when we're talking about reinforcing your commitment is you want to prevent mixed messaging. So if you're a jack of all trades, where you have a little bit of private pay, you have a little bit of Medicaid, and you're not keeping the conversation on track, for whatever it is that you're targeting that facility for, when it comes to getting referrals, yeah, you have a problem. And if you are a strictly private pay, because that's really the focus of this video, if you are strictly a private pay, the minute insurance, VA, anything else comes up, if it's not private pay or long-term care policy, you want to steer the conversation back, bring that bring that conversation right all the way around to the private pay model and to on your private pay services. Here's what I mean by that. Sometimes you'll go to skilled nursing facilities because the facilities rely on hospitals. They get what they can. If the person has Medicaid, they'll take it. If the person's got Medicare, they'll take it. If the person's got private insurance, they'll do whatever the combination is. Now, social workers, in many cases, not all of them, please don't shoot the messenger. But the reality is when you're dealing with social workers and nurses in these facilities, sometimes they have more of a heart than they do of a head. Okay, so what I mean is this. I will have 10 patients in my skilled nursing that I'm responsible for discharge. I'm a social worker. 8 of them cannot in a million years afford your services, but I am still responsible for getting them out of my building. So I'm going to try to push, hey, listen, they can't afford this. You're too expensive. That's what they'll try to tell you. The fact is, what they are doing is they're sitting there, they're thinking about those clients. They're also thinking about their own bank account. And if you're sitting there, depending on the state, and you're telling them, 35, 40, $45 per hour for this service, what they start doing is going, oh my God, I could never afford this. And they internalize and personalize this. And you want to get them off that train. Look, the reality is I've been there many times. And early on in my career, let me tell you, I used to have to resist the urge to sit there and look at these social workers and look at these referral partners and just be like, listen, I don't care what you can afford. Stay out of the client's pocket. I'm here to offer a service to a very specific group of people. Please, you never want to say that to them, okay? Unless you want to really alienate them. But I know the feeling, that frustration that happens. Make sure your messaging is fixed. Make sure you have enough tact and decorum to be able to say in a very nice and professional manner, I understand you have Medicaid clients, and we get that. And please forgive me, I've got some allergies, so I keep scratching my nose. The, you know, we I understand you have these other clients you have to care for and you have to get out of your building. We can help you. We work with agencies that deal with Medicaid. We can push them in that direction, but the reality is this is our ideal client. One of the ways that you can really hammer this in is when it comes to specifically the follow-up. You go to a facility sends you a Medicaid client. You go back, you help the client, help them find the right agency, but then you go back to the facility and you say, "Thank you, Sally, social worker. I really appreciate that you thought of my agency for when you referred Mrs. Jones the other day. That, it's I'm really grateful you're trying to work with me. But let me let me clarify. I guess I wasn't as clear as I should have been when I was here the other day telling you what my client is and go through it again. Our client is looking for private pay. We have a minimum number of X hours. If they want below that, this is our price. We help people with A, B, and C problems. We specialize in care for XYZ conditions. All right. And this is where our messaging comes in. And all of these things reinforce your commitment to private pay. So, just to recap before we move on, because I still got a lot more material to cover, you want to clarify the vision. You want to make sure you have a defined target market. And you want to prevent mixed messaging. You know, relate it to dating if this makes it easier. If you're trying to find a significant other and one minute that person's hot and the next minute they're cold, those mixed messages are going to kill you. They'll drive you nuts and you'll just, you won't even know how to handle it. So this is why your messaging matters. All right. Moving on. Number 3, you want to maintain your strategic marketing budget. Okay. So this is important because if your budget is not well planned, you want to make, what's going to end up happening is that you're going to get out of alignment with your growth goals and you're going to overextend your resources. Okay. So there's 3 specific things you want to make sure you're doing. You want to set very clear budget parameters. Okay. So you want to sit down with your team. Look, I'm big on communication, especially if you're trying to build a business, not just efficiently and effectively, but quickly. If you want to be able to achieve results to where your business is, doubled or tripled within 12 months, first of all, when I assess a business, I will tell you 90% of the businesses out there, if you try to grow that fast, you're going to fail. But some people, there's probably about 10-15% of people that are well structured, and they can easily grow at that pace. So, but if your your budget has to match your goals, what is it? Don't don't try to have filet mignon results on a McDonald's budget, even though McDonald's today has gotten much more expensive. But yeah, y'all get what I mean. All right. So you want to make sure you have a clear budget. It's got to be realistic. You got to sit down. Your team members have to buy into this. So how do I do this? You want to break down your budget into sections. Okay. So what do I mean by that? If we're going to do promotional items, okay, I need promotional items. I got to buy them. These should never be looked at as a quarterly expense, even though, I'm sorry, as a monthly expense, they should be looked at as a quarterly expense. Even if you have to budget it out monthly so that you have enough funds, it is a quarterly expense, not monthly. Okay. It's a monthly save quarterly expense. So here's what we're talking about with this. That's your one budget. It should be on average, if you're brand new, somewhere between 500 and $1,000 you should be putting away every month. If you're a bigger agency, that number should increase. You'll hear a bunch of different experts talk about anywhere between 1% to 5%, of your overall revenue should be part of your marketing budget. I don't believe in using overall generalities. Each business is a little bit different. So, you know, when I work with a client and I do the initial assessment of their business for part of the strategic planning portion, this is one of the things that we do come up with, but it's based on all of their expenses, okay? All of their overall things. So one part of the budget is your promotional items. Yes, you should buy them. No, they should not sit in a closet and look pretty. There are certain items that you should never run out of. There are certain items that should be seasonal, and this is why you need to do this and take a look at promotional items as a quarterly expense. Um, you, if you're looking in your storage closet or wherever it is you keep your promotional items, and the quantity, you're inventorying this, and the quantity does not change month over month, you have to have a very serious conversation with whoever your business development team is, because that business development team is not giving out your items. You're not in the retail business of hoarding promotional items. You're buying them to build brand awareness in your local community. The next part of your budget, okay, is it's going to be very simple, and that's your lunch budget. So you have certain facilities that you need to get into. You need to be able to build depth very quickly, and you need to expand your reach very quickly. What do I mean by that? That means if I'm looking at XYZ skilled nursing facility, I want to make sure that I am able to really build a relationship with the agency. The relationship is going to start with your business developer, but it needs to be built with the agency itself, okay, long term. So the way we want to do this is we want to come in, we want to get an initial contact person and quickly spread, okay, spread inside the building. If our first contact person is the director of admissions, we want to leverage that relationship in as short a time as possible to director of nursing, social work, the administrator, the executive director, administrator, all of this, and so on and so on and so on until we know as many people as possible in the building. Then at the same time, we want to make sure that the building has relationships with as many people in our office as possible in as short a time as possible. So if I'm the business developer, one of the tactics I'm going to use, and we're going to sit down, we're going to go through a number of different ways to get in the building. if we're just beating our heads against the wall and we're going to try to set up a lunch and learn. This way, we have a number of people inside from our team in the office, one, two, possibly people in there, and we're meeting with multiple people on their side, maybe the entire social work staff, the PT staff, all of these people. So how do you figure out that budget? You go find a place that's nice but not super expensive, that people enjoy going to lunch, to have lunch or having food from there, but it might be a little bit out of the way for them to get lunch. I'm going to use Panera as an example just because. I mean, Panera is not really doesn't fit that criteria. You have to understand local what place that's going to be for you. Just please don't make it pizza unless it's like the most amazing pizza you've ever had in your life. Do not give pizza. All right. I mean, pizza has its place, but not for this. And the cost is about the same as what I'm talking about. So let's just assume Panera. Let's say we're doing lunch for 10 people, including drinks, plasticware, and all of that other stuff. You're looking at about 150 bucks, okay? 150 to 200, but we're going to go with 150 just because the numbers will look easier in my head. And you sit down with your team and you want to plan out for one of these lunch and learns a week. So there's 4.3 weeks in a month, so let's use an average of 4 weeks. All right, so that means we need to set aside about $600 every month for the lunch and learns. Does that mean that we are going to actually spend $600? No, but you want to make sure that you have that set aside. Then you also want to have something for what's called discretionary spending. In other words, petty cash. So if our budget is $600 for a lunch and learn, that's the money that needs approval. That means you want to do about 10% of that, you want to dedicate it to petty cash. So about $60. And this is how you're going to build out your business development budget. There's other aspects to it and there's other things to keep in mind, but in a very general sense, these are the basics of building out your budget. Okay, so this very clear. We know, we understand that as it goes along, you know, um, we understand that as it goes along, we want to make sure that we are able to grow with our plans. So if right now we're doing $1 million in revenue and we want to increase to 3 million, we understand that we're going to have to expand this to match our current growth. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're focusing on gradual and sustainable growth rather than just spend, spend, spend for these big campaigns that end up not going anywhere. The next part of this is you want to optimize your spending, and this is what we were talking about. Break down that budget. Make sure that you have clearly defined what you're going to spend on digital marketing, what you're going to spend on referral programs if you're going to have them. So sometimes you may offer your client, hey, listen, refer a friend. Refer a friend will give you X off of your next bill. That's part of the budget. That's revenue not coming in. Okay. So one of the things I like for programs like that are to split a referral. Okay. So meaning, hey, Mrs. Jones, I understand you really like my service. If you refer me to Mr. Smith down the street, I'll take 10% off of your next bill and 10% off of his first bill the minute everything or the paperwork gets signed and we start services. All right. And it's a one-time only thing, but still that's part of the budget, especially if the campaign takes off, it's going to impact a lot of things. So you want to make sure you're doing this. You want to know that you're monitoring this all the time. Okay. You want to make sure you're tracking the ROI on all of this. This way you can reallocate funds as needed and just take it out of what's not working and shove it into what is working. Don't try to fix what's not broken. Or a better way to express it, if it works broken, don't fix it. All right. And just keep going with it. All right. So if you see something that's normally should not work, but it's really popping off as far as that, double down on it and make sure it continues to be properly funded. Same thing the other way. If you see anything that's not working, regardless of what you think should be working, stop investing into it. I give every campaign should have a measurement of 90 days. You should have a 30, 60, 90 metric for every campaign. And if you're not seeing results by a certain amount of time, you need to kill it. And if you are seeing results, you need to double down until you stop seeing results. All right. And then you also have to be able to manage expectations. All right. So look, $10,000 spend is a really high marketing budget. Okay. Um, even if you're spreading that out amongst a couple of different things, but unless you're producing into the multiples of millions, like the 2, 3, 4 million range, and you're seeing actual results and sustain from these sustainable investments, it that's too high of a budget. And again, every agency is completely different. Please don't jump down my throat. You may have a bigger spend than that. I have clients that have almost 3 times that marketing spend, but they also have a very specific strategy that works for them. Okay. So just make sure that at the end of the day, you've sat down, you've crunched the numbers, and that your spending aligns with the strategic goals, and that you are tracking these measurable results. There's again a couple of weeks ago I did another video on how to create and track metrics in your agency. Um, Somewhere it'll be linked. Just be sure to go ahead and go ahead and do all of this. Okay. Next, again, when we're talking about this, you also want to make sure that you're able to integrate all of this stuff. Integrate your offline and online marketing strategies, and this is basically what we're looking at. A couple of offline, um, really expensive methods you can do on make sure that your branding is consistent. It may cost more per item, but try to use a reputable um, promotional item company. Look, Vistaprint is great. It's inexpensive. I understand everybody likes that because it's quick, fast, and cheap. Okay. But the reality is they can be inconsistent. They are a printing broker. So you put in the order to Vistaprint, Vistaprint puts it out, and whoever gives them the lowest bid is the person they are going to give your print job to. Make sure that you're understanding how that works. Some items again may be more expensive, others may be cheaper, but that using one printer that specializes, preferably local to you, is going to give you very clearly, they're going to give you a consistent product. Purple is not purple for every printer, even if you have the right color codes. Okay. You also want to make sure that all your contacts have a unified call to action. Okay. Make sure that your web links, every place you have your website linked up, that it actually works, that all your social media is actually online. Make sure that any landing pages and any other information that you have out there on the internet, that all the links work, that everything is aligned. Make sure that you can use different services that will do this for you. They'll run a check to see where are you listed. You're on Google Business? Google My Business is king right now, but are you also listed on Google Maps? Are you listed on Waze? Are you listed on Bing Places? Where are you listed? Are you listed on Hot Frog, um, My Local something or other? I mean, there's a lot of places that you should be listed that are just going to create these backlinks and send people organically to your website. Okay. Next, once again, thank you. Leave us a comment below. Let us know. Have you ever done an audit to make sure that all of this stuff is done? That your business is running smoothly, that you have all of these things in place, that your budget's aligned, your strategy's aligned. It's those audits are not cheap, especially there's not a few people. I mean, obviously my company is one that we do this. They're not cheap to do. They're time consuming, but they are worthwhile investment because they do plan out and help you plan out moving forward what's going on. All right. That being said, like I said, leave us a comment below. Let us know. Do you know all of these details about your business? Or, where does your business stand? Give us a like, share, subscribe, all of that other wonderful stuff. Or so like some of the YouTubers out there are saying, don't forget to smash that like button. All right. Next, number four, make sure that you're leveraging your targeted marketing strategies. So focused efforts tend to yield better return on investment and ensure that you are reaching the correct client. So what do we mean? You want to look at this in three very specific parts. You want to make sure that your website is optimized, SEO, all of that stuff. Okay. There's a couple of tricks out there. You want to, like, for example, for SEO, you want to make sure you have things like private pay home care, self pay home care. You want to make sure that you're the right keywords. Those long tail keywords are out there. You want to make sure that you're hyper localized. That the way your website is built, that don't just say home care services provided. If you are from, Walla Walla, Washington, make sure you have a couple of blog articles that say, how to select a caregiving agency in Walla Walla, Washington. If you are from, let's say, Suffolk County, New York, you want to make sure that you have articles and things like, or a service page that says, Alzheimer's care in Suffolk County. If you're from Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, have stuff on there that says, 24-hour care for your loved one in Jenkintown. Be very specific. Don't have things in there about the state, have things in there about the county, have things in there about your local community, about surrounding communities. Also make sure that, you know, the goal make sure that it's all um if you have like certain known communities, like for example, you know New York is known as the Big Apple. Okay, so nowhere on a map is it the Big Apple, but people may search for those terms. Those are a little bit more obscure, but make sure you have that stuff in there. The goal is very simple. If I am in the hospital and my mother or grandmother is sitting in a hospital bed. Okay. I'm panicked. I am in high stress situation. I know they can't be by themselves for a while, but I also cannot take care of them myself. It would overburden my own nuclear family. So I'm going to sit right there on the phone, which is, the most overused tool and the go-to tool that people have. And I'm going to put in home care near me. Google is going to search very quickly everything in its database. It uses something called web crawlers, and it's going to find where you are based on GPS, right? Because Google knows where you are all the time. And then it's going to look for home care agencies or websites that mention home care and the area where you are. So these are some of the things you want to make sure that are part of your overall strategy. You also want to move into and understand your referral networks. All right. Look, make sure you're on whatever directories and everything else. But the biggest thing is that you need referral accounts and you need partners inside of those referral accounts. So accounts are the building, the referral partner is the individual that works in those buildings. Okay, you want to understand all of this and have, again, your business development person is going to build the initial relationship. Long-term goal on that process is to have a relationship built with the agency. Believe me, you'll thank me for it, especially the day you go to sell, because the person who you're selling it to is probably hiring our company to come in and evaluate if it's a good sale or not. Okay, so these are the things that you want to make sure. Have these strong referral partnerships and make sure that they are aligned with your overall goal. And lastly, but not least, and there's a whole bunch more, but lastly for this conversation, is you want to make sure you have proper social proof. If your client base, okay, if you take a look at any 12-month period in your business. So if you took care of 100 clients over a 12-month period, if you're Medicaid, if you're private pay, that number's probably closer to like 30 or 40, maybe 50 or 60, depending on how big you are. You want to make sure that per year you are achieving at least 10% of your active client base should be reflected on your Google reviews. All right. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. 10% is the minimum standard. So if you're averaging 60 clients active at a time, you should have a minimum of 6 reviews that are current in that time period. So as your business goes, if you've been in business 3 years, then you should at any moment be able to look at your Google reviews and see a 10% reflection for each year. That's minimum. A perfect standard would be closer to 30%. All right. But again, there's a number of reasons why these things happen. And this is where audits and coaching and strategies come into play. So those are what we're looking at. Make sure your online review is up to snuff. Make sure that you have strong referral networks, and make sure that you are showcasing your social proof. Google is great, Facebook is great. Get yourself a tool that will connect them right onto your website and pump them in real time. This way, anyone that comes to your website can go in and do this. Okay. All right. Number 5, my favorite topic. You want to make sure you are tracking and evaluating your progress. Look, if it's not getting measured, it's being ignored, period. You want to make sure that you have regular monitoring so that you can identify what's working and so that whatever's not working, you can quickly adjust it before things get out of hand. Okay. You want to make sure you have solid KPIs. Track your inquiry to appointment conversion rates. Track your revenue per account, revenue per client, billable hours per average billable hours per client. You want to make sure that you are tracking your the time from billing to payment. That's a big one. It gets a lot of agencies in a lot of trouble. Okay. I've seen many agencies close down over the years because they're not tracking that, or they're not keeping up with either they're not keeping up properly with their billing, or they're not keeping up properly with their accounts receivable. So they've submitted billing, but they're not making sure they're getting paid. They're coming in and they're focusing on these accounts, these referral accounts, because hey, great, they're sending me 6 clients a month. Fantastic. Is that really better than an account that is sending you 1 client a month, but that client's worth 40 hours versus 6 clients a month, but each client that they're sending you is only looking for 1 to 2 hours a week? All right. Take a look at this, put it all into perspective, and make sure that you're doing this. You want to make sure that you are reviewing your metrics regularly. Once again, I think it was like from the time this video was being done, about 2 weeks ago. So today's March 1st. Look for the middle of February of 2025. I did a video on KPIs. But by setting KPIs, reviewing them regularly, it's going to allow you to adapt and improve. If you're not flexible, you're not going to be able to grow. Okay, it's just very simple. You can't continue to do business today the same way that business was done 10 years ago. Okay, I deal with this a lot with a number of different clients, where they have this mindset that but we've always done it this way. Well, you've always done it this way, and that may have worked 10 years ago, but you're not reviewing the outcomes today. And if you're not able to adapt, you're going to die. All right. And believe me, I can go on a whole rant about that. Okay. So number 6, support your team's well-being. Okay. So a team that feels supported is going to be motivated. And that means these people are going to be able to manage stress and high pressure environments. Okay, so that all adds up to higher productivity and better outcomes. Three simple things you want to make sure you're doing. Okay. Number one, I've already mentioned earlier in this video, you want to have open communication. I'm not saying that you're going to sit there and start talking about your private life with all of your staff. If you want to do that, that's cool. But you want to be friendly without being their friend. Remember, they're there to work for you. Okay, you could be a nice person, you could be a good boss, you can have a really positive environment. You don't have to invite them over to your house for dinner. Okay, because eventually you may have to fire one of these people, and that gets awkward. So, but you do want to, in a professional setting, have very, very open communication. You want to have regular meetings. You want to have open door policies. You want to encourage people to discuss what problems they're having. You want to encourage them to talk about the challenges, and you want to do this in an open forum so that you can have multiple feedback loops. Okay, so if I'm struggling with sales, but your scheduler used to work as a receptionist at XYZ Skilled Nursing, which is a prime target for us. You want that person may have input into how I can improve my processes or what I might be doing wrong. And this is all going to help the business grow. You also want to make sure that you are investing in development. Look, it's a common thing, and there used to be a big meme going around online about it. Where people would they would have two businessmen, and they would say, oh well, what if I invest in them and they leave? Well, here's the better question, and the other part of the meme. What if you don't invest in them and they stay with you for the next 10 years? You've done nothing to invest in improving their outputs. If you are not investing in your staff's professional development or education, especially in roles that are forward facing, like business development, like client services, like care management or case management. These trends, techniques, and a need to understand the market are constantly evolving. It's you know it's no different than when you have people that are out there that are constantly pushing some particular services, and they're doing nothing to improve themselves either. Okay. And that's just kind of how it goes in the long run. All right. So you want to make sure that you're investing in your people, in their improvement. You want to make sure you're communicating. And finally, this is something, I'm an Army vet. There was a big belief that we had in the Army. You praise in public and you punish in private. And this is one of the things. If somebody does something good, no matter how small this achievement may appear, you want to celebrate it. This will improve morale. It'll give you a more positive work culture, and it'll drive these people to perform better for you. Okay. If I feel that I'm being recognized, I'm being valued. Being valued doesn't always mean that I'm making more money per hour. Sometimes, because I've been there before I went into to business ownership, I've worked for people. And let me tell you, I've had some really good paying jobs that I've quit because I just didn't feel that they appreciated what I did. I have had even now, like I've had clients that I have just quit working with them because of the same reason. They were ungrateful. And I felt that they didn't appreciate the actual efforts that my team was putting in. They would talk down to my team members. They would just not be a good fit, and we would drop them. So you want to make sure that, your team doesn't feel like that when they're around you. Now, I understand, look, culture comes into this. Certain cultures from different ethnicities aren't as open to encouragement. I get that. But at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. I don't care what part of the world you're in. I don't care where you're watching this from. I don't care who you think you are as an individual. Everybody likes to be told, good job, once in a while. Okay. So we're almost done. All right. So number seven. Oh, seven. Here we go. All right. You want to make sure you have an open door policy. Okay. So strong relationships, especially if you want to build a high performing culture in business development. You want to make sure that you have good professional relationships. You want to make sure that you have that people can come in and talk about what's going on. This being able to unload really does help foster mutual growth. All right. Like there's nothing like I've had staff members and I've had bosses when I've worked for other people that let me tell you what a relief it is to be able to just go up to somebody and say, I've just had a crappy day. And I want to, how can I improve this so I don't have this before, have this happen? Like I've got, thank, thank goodness, because being a business owner is rough because you have to be careful. You can't really unload on your staff all the time. And people who don't own businesses don't always understand the burdens. This is why like mastermind groups and things like that really are helpful. Just sometimes you can unload. And this is kind of where it comes down to. Regularly express gratitude for what your team members are doing. It even if it's not great, it's like, hey, listen, yes, we have goals to meet, but you want to be able to make sure that your team understands, okay, that you appreciate what they're doing. Even if the results aren't exactly what you want, they should understand that you appreciate it. Just saying thank you. You know, um, go up to them and say, hey, I know you've been struggling a little bit lately. Where are you? How can I support you? And at the end of it, thanks. Now, it doesn't, it's they made used to make jokes about this all the time with the gratitude sandwich. So you criticize about something, you thank them for something, then you give them a room that somewhere where they can improve, and then you want to come back in and do this. Yeah, and come back in and say thank you again for something else. It's what it is. You want to make sure you're actively seeking and offering guidance. You want to have that type of culture in your office. You want to make sure that, people can come in and ask you for feedback and advice. You want to proactively ask if offer help if you see somebody struggling. And now please, I'm not saying that if you see somebody struggling to pay their bills to go and pay their bills beyond their paycheck. What I'm saying is work related, okay? I just got to make that clear because it just came into my head that somebody's out there is probably going to sit there and go, "Yeah, you know what? I already pay them enough. Why do I want to keep?" No. We're talking about work related specifically. You want to also make sure that you have a good network of peers and advisors that you can offer um, your people to go to. Like, for example, the person that prompted this video today with their question. Um, they're, they've been a part associated with me for a very long time. They, they, we have a mentorship type of offering that we give to people, through software and things like that. And these are things that it's a resource. I'm not saying you have to come, don't take it as a sales pitch. Just make sure you understand that your people may need a different perspective. Encourage it. If you have a relationship with another agency, let's say your non-skilled, non-medical home care, you have a good relationship with a hospice agency or a home health agency, and they have like just a really, really solid salesperson, then you want to make sure that you talk to them and say, hey, listen, would you mind letting my salesperson go out with your salesperson so they can maybe learn something? That's why you're investing in their opportunity to succeed, and you have a network of people that they can get some other feedback from. Okay. So finally, number 8, let's talk about some key takeaways here. All right. You want to, if you're going to grow a private pay business, maintain, stay focused on private pay. Okay. Even if it's an add-on, you have to have like a salesperson that's that understands this. You want to make sure that the mind shift is different. There really is a different mindset when it comes to selling Medicaid over private pay. There's different approaches, different tactics, there's all sorts of differences that come into play here. All right, because you're switching from a mentality of here, sign here, and we'll get the ball rolling to bring you on as a client versus telling somebody potentially, hey, listen, I need 10, 12, $13,000 in, just to get started looking for a caregiver for you. So you want to make sure that if you're going to focus on private pay, you stay focused on private pay. You maintain clear, consistent commitment to the model and make sure that your team is on board with that. You want to make sure that you budget strategically. Okay. Plan your marketing spend across all channels, online and offline. Make sure that you have a very clearly defined budget. X amount for pay per click and online, X amount for lead generators, X amount of money for promotional items, like I said, quarterly, but you're saving for it every month. Make sure you have X amount of dollars for, lunch and learns, for community events, so on and so forth. Okay. But be sure that the money is allocated, that the money is there, and if needed, and that you're placing the resources into the right buckets strategically. Okay. You want to make sure that you are in really heavily invested in offline activities, KPIs. Make sure that you're reviewing them. Make sure that your strategies remain effective and that everything is aligned with your end goal. Make sure that you are reviewing the accounts per referral. I'm sorry, the referrals per account, the revenue by referral. Make sure that you're measuring all of the activity. Again, watch the other video where I break this down into more detail, but you don't want to sit there and measure everything. Otherwise, you're not a data analyst, you're a home care agency owner. But you want to pick out what are some of the more key points that are going to be relevant to your specific business. Okay. You want to, by doing this, by using these KPIs, you want to be able to monitor, adapt, and improve your processes. Every 30 days, you should be reviewing activities. Every 60 days, you should be reviewing accounts. And every 90 days, you and your sales team need to make sure that you have a viable set of accounts. If you are focusing on 25 to 35 visits per week to accounts, to like physical buildings, okay, that means that you should, at any given moment, have between 10 and 20 active accounts. These are accounts that are consistently and predictably referring clients to you. It takes a while to build that up. It doesn't happen overnight. Some places are going to refer right away. Some places are going to take a little longer, but you have to understand where everybody is on the timeline and which accounts you have to recognize them pretty quickly, which accounts are dead weight. Some accounts need weekly visits, some need bi-weekly, some need monthly visits. I've worked accounts that you're good showing up once a quarter, you know, but it really depends on what's going on. And if you are not tracking these activities and evaluating everything properly, you're just heading towards a whole lot of nothing. And then the final takeaway, and probably the most important, is you want to support your team. As an owner, okay, you have to have good communication and you have to have a growth-oriented work environment. People need to feel comfortable if they're struggling, coming to somebody for help. People need to make sure that they're going to get this help. And if you find that your people aren't great about asking for help, be proactive about it. Reach out to them. Say, hey, listen, how can I help you? What do you need from me to succeed? Ask. It's an old expression, closed mouths don't get fed. So a few final thoughts. Number one, thank you for joining us. You know, um, Again, leave us a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like for us to talk about next week. Um, If you have a specific question, we will interrupt whatever we have planned to go over it. This is not what we were going to talk about today, but we happily went over this. It's an important topic. Um, you don't forget to like the video and share it and leave us a comment on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. This is this encourages us and it lets us know that we are picking the right topics and that you want to hear about. All right. So as a closing thought, look, navigating private pay it's not always easy. Okay. It requires a certain amount of balance. You need to have good strategic plan in place. You need to carefully make sure that your budgeting is aligned with that plan. And you have to build strong relationships and good culture in your office. It's a fine balancing act. It's one part art, one part science, and like 5% magic because sometimes, it requires a little bit of luck. Okay. So if you integrate some of these strategies we talked about, and you're able to stay adaptable while supporting your team, you can not only just keep your head above water like the person that asked the question, all right, but you can also be able to thrive. All right. So you want to make sure you have sustainable success and remember that acknowledging these challenges while celebrating wins are going to be the backbone of having a resilient, fast growing, and sustainable business. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. And if you're still with us until now, we extra appreciate you. All right. You guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you on the next video.